What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 107 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Also, don't forget to join the Discord channel. I'll have a description and then the link below. Right now, I have a poll going for what my next ship build is going to be. So be sure to join the Discord. Once you do, on the left side, there'll be a next build poll. And I'm not going to go through the list like I've been doing in some of the previous episodes, but I've generated that list based off the most popular building requests that I've had so far on the YouTube channel. So if there's any ships that's not on that list that you want to see me build, be sure to drop a comment below because I base these polls off the most popular requests. Also, before we hop into today's episode, working on getting us to 1,000 subscribers. Once we do, we're going to be dropping a tutorial on the USS Enterprise A refit from Star Trek Beyond. I'm really looking forward to building that ship, and once we hit 1,000 subscribers, which is my main goal right now on the channel, we'll be doing that. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in today to today's episode. We have about a 20-minute video today, and we're going to be focusing on our hull lines on the saucer. Uh, we've already started them in our previous episode, and I was talking about this before that these lines here, the angled ones, we're not going to be bringing them going all the way down to the sides here. Um, really, at this point, you can see we've pretty much have hit our roadblock here, and this was something that I wanted to show on why I made the decision here to stop them where I stopped them, because the main reason for that is as we transition down here now at an angle, it's not going to look nearly as pretty. If you wanted to, you could keep that going, but it's going to look janky. There's going to be a space between them, and I don't like that. So I believe we're going to be stopping at this first white concrete line here, and we'll actually be replacing that for a stone-colored half slab to give it just a little bit more color. I think I'm going to try to bring this down here a little bit more so you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. Um, at this point, I was like, well, let's just bring it down all the way to see how it looks. If it looks that janky, and it does. Um, this is something that I like to show when I'm doing my tutorials, so this way you can see my reasoning on why I make a lot of the decisions that I make on my channel and for my builds. Because sometimes, like, I'll have people that that they'll question me on why I make a lot of the decisions that I make, and there's at the end of the day, there's a grand scheme to my madness on why I make a lot of the decisions that I make on here. And it's just because I've had so much experience now building these ships, I try to plan ahead and foresee certain things as much as I can. But with that being said, sometimes you really don't know how some things are going to turn out until you try it out. You know what I mean? So basically, what I'm getting at here is that not everything that we're going to do is going to work. And in those cases, these are great opportunities here to problem solve and figure out a way around that. So in this case, with our hull lines, rather than bringing that all the way down to the lip of the outer saucer, we're only going to be bringing that up to the first lip of the white concrete row. We'll be switching out that color of the white concrete to more match the color of the cutouts that we have. And just pretty much moving on from there. Um, Something that I've been trying to do here on the Enterprise D is give it a nice bit of detailing, but avoiding the Aztecing, because that's and I've talked about this in the past, that with the Aztecing, it's something that you're really not going to see all that much on the Next Generation. Because I've been going back and I've been watching episodes of Next Generation, just not only because I love that show, but also because I want to get reference material for different things that I can do, different rooms that I can make on the interior. Um, and I noticed, watching the show that, from a distance, you don't see the Aztecing pretty much at all. You really don't. It's not until you get really close up on some of those really close up shots that you even see it. And at this point, I made the decision to use the half slabs on a good portion of my build and building the ship in white concrete. Um, because of that reasoning or decision making, it's going to make it difficult to do the Aztecing. So that's why I was like, well, you know what? You can't even really see it all that well on Next Generation a lot of times. So we're just going to really opt out of doing that and using, instead of doing that, using some of the different hull lines that we can find from looking at screenshots of the ship, looking at models to um, bring out some of these accent details. That's a lot of the stuff that we're really going to be focusing on with the exterior of the ship. Doing little things like this to just give the ship a little bit more um, detail and texture to bring it to life a little bit more. Doesn't seem like it right now, but you know, it's just one step at a time. And I promise you, over a period of time, as we go through these steps, it'll may not make sense. Some of the decisions that I make up front, maybe not so much now because we're pretty much done on the outside of the ship. But um, earlier on, that was more so the case. But because you know, you have to really plan ahead when you're building these ships, you know. And I do want to talk about a little bit about our center here. Um, I still have yet to fix that, and that's going to be that way for a while here on the dead center. That I have it as 2 blocks wide, but I made a mistake. I believe it should be over one to the looking at the ship facing backwards, it should be one over to the right here. This right row is their center. I believe that it's off by 1. We will fix that. So if you want to wait until I do that in the episode, feel free to do so if you have that same error, or if you can figure out how to space your center there. And it's really not hard. You just count out the entire cut line here down the center, and that's how you determine your center. It's really not difficult. You know, you just split this in half. But yeah, this thing is off by 1. I'm not sure how I made that mistake, but I mean, at the end of the day, stuff like this happens. You know, I've talked to some other people during the course of this build where they've come into errors and that, you know, they didn't think that they made any errors. And look, this is how I look at it. You can be the most attentive builder in the world on Minecraft, and you're still going to make mistakes. So what I say to that is, don't look at it as something that, oh, I messed up, and not being willing to admit to that mistake. Just, you know, take it as a learning experience that, okay, I made a little error here. Let's go back and fix it. How can I go about fixing it? You know what I mean? That's something that I try to do on all my tutorials. I show my mistakes. And my main reason for showing my mistakes is because not only does it help me learn, because it might also help out some of the other people that are running into the same issue that I am. And that's one of the reasons too why I show a lot of stuff on these builds and why I build them in real time, because I'm trying to give everybody a platter of content. So, because not everybody is going to have or going to run into the same problems when they're building these ships. So that's a big main reason why I show a lot of the things that I show while I'm working on them. You know, because I'm trying to really show my thought process and just everything that I do in the course of these builds. So this way, everybody else that's watching these tutorials, you can learn something, have a little bit of fun, and just slowly improve on your shipbuilding the same way that I did, hopefully, or at least that's the idea. Because, you know, this wasn't something that I did overnight. We're talking to where I am now. This was like a 10-year journey of building ships to really get to this point where I got all these steps down and building these ships the way that I do. So I'm really just trying to show everybody all this stuff, because I've talked about this a lot in the past, that, you know, I know how it is, especially with shipbuilding. Sometimes it can be difficult. You're not sure what to do. And I mean, there's really not that much stuff out there like this that is really going to show you exactly how to do it, because whether it's that people are either too lazy or they don't want to show their thought process and they're worried that somebody's going to become better than them. I'm honestly not really all that concerned with that, because at the end of the day, I enjoy the shipbuilding. That's always going to be there for me. And if I can help people in getting some ideas on what they can do for their builds, maybe help them out if they're having a problem, or just give them a couple of pointers, or show them the way on some things that they could do, I figured I've done my job at that point, you know? Because at the end of the day, this thing isn't designed to be copied one for one, everything that I do. Now, if you want to do that, go for it. But this is really just meant to get you thinking the way that I do when I build these things, so that you can start to do these things on your own as well. at some point, I really do need to write down all the steps that I take with this and maybe get that together for something. I don't know what I would do with it, but that might be something that I do down the road. Because there is, when you take everything together, it can be quite a lot, all the steps that you have to put in together to make these ships work. You know, that's something that I've learned too. I think the number one thing is planning. Planning ahead, trying to anticipate what you're going to do, try to anticipate any issues that you might have. But again, you can anticipate all you want and try to plan out all you want. Sometimes you're just going to hit snags. Maybe it doesn't come out the way you want it to. In that case, like I said, just take that opportunity to learn from it. Look at what you got, try to decide why that doesn't work, and what you can do to fix it. That's my number one go-to, because like, don't get me wrong, like I'll make mistakes on here sometimes and I'll get pissed. I think anybody can get upset sometimes, especially when you're working on a ship this large, because you don't want to go back and backtrack that much. We're only human, so mistakes are going to happen. But just take that time, walk away from it, work on something else, work on a different area of the ship, come back to it with a fresh set of eyes, and just think about, okay, what don't I like about this, and what can I do to fix it? Pretty much what we're focusing on right now today. We're not necessarily focusing on any of that stuff. It's just something I like to talk about. Really, today we're just kind of focusing on, what does this ship need? And I don't have this up on the screen, but I have a couple of my screenshots up that I'm looking at for references of the Enterprise D. One of the things I've talked about too that I think is just fantastic to have, a 3D model of the ship to be able to see it at different angles, because a picture is not going to give you all those details. If you go on, if you're not sure where to find that, just go on Google and search U.S.S. Enterprise D 3D model. You'll be able to find one pretty easily. This way you can look at it from every single angle that you could possibly think of. Another thing that I really like to do too, because pictures are only going to get you so far, having a reference from models and toys, pictures of those are fantastic to have, because some models and toys will give you details that you may not necessarily have seen in pictures of the ship. Because models and toys, I've noticed a lot of times that they'll have accents in certain areas that maybe that they were there in the show, but they maybe weren't as prominent. So maybe you didn't realize that they were there. A lot of the detailing that we're going to be doing, not today with the saucer with the hull lines, but going forward, a lot of the detailing that we're going to be doing, I reference off the Eagle Moss Enterprise, and then also I just searched on Google U.S.S. Enterprise toy, and I used a lot of those references to get all the detailing that I've gotten off the ship. And if you want to get an idea of where the build's currently at, just go on the Discord channel and go under current projects. I've got a bunch of pictures up, little teasers showing a lot of the work that I've done on both the inside of the ship and the outside. But there's still a ton of work to do. This is something else that I think I've talked about it once or twice, but this was the first time that I ever built a ship this scale before. So this was kind of a learning experience for me. I wasn't really expecting this thing to go out as long as it would, or as long as it has. And I've had to kind of adapt and pick and choose on exactly on how much of these the live build that I'm showing, because some of these areas I'll only end up showing half of it because of the repetition. And that's something that I probably should have done a little bit more in the beginning. But again, it's one of these things where you think about it. I've only been doing this YouTube channel for, I think, just over or under 2 years. So, I mean, it's been a learning experience for me. And, I expect that as the channel continues and I continue to do more of these tutorials, I'll get better at it. But it's just I'm taking it one episode at a time. Because, I've talked about this too. I don't know if I'm going to do another ship this big again. Like, even if and when I do the Enterprise E, even though it's technically longer than the Enterprise D, it's not nearly as tall. I don't know that I do it in the same scale, just because of the amount of time that it took me to do it in. I don't know. We'll have to see how I feel with that, because I have been working on this specific build for just over a year now, and there's still a ton of work to do on it. I'm not in a rush to push through it, because I really committed at this point to getting this thing done, and it's going to take whatever it takes to do it. If I don't foresee it taking another year, but if it did, hey, I mean, I'd be happy to do it, because at least at that point I could say, you know, that I committed to finishing this ship. Um, but we'll see. There's still a ton of work left to do on this thing. Maybe not so much on the outside, because I think I can honestly say at this point on the build where I'm currently at, that the Enterprise D is pretty much done on the outside, with a couple of minor small details. I've got add in a couple more rows of windows. I have to do the registration on the saucer, and I think that's about it, other than a couple of loose ends here and there. Really what I'm focusing on right now is the interior, and I'm just going deck to deck at this point. Before, I was just kind of going as I was getting inspiration. It was a little bit more sporadic, and I just kind of decided, like, you know, I need to classify this ship by deck and what's going to go where, because of how large it is. And I'm glad that I did that, because now it's given me the opportunity to kind of get a better idea of where everything needs to go. I'm almost done with my entertainment deck. I think the only thing I have left to do, that I plan on doing at this point for the entertainment deck, is I have to build out the theater where they had the live plays on the Enterprise D, which it wasn't so much of a theater. It was kind of like a redressing of 10 Forward, the lounge, that they turned into a theater. I'm going to be doing that, and then also I have to build out the active holodeck that's going to be based off the Good Goodbye, or the Big Goodbye, excuse me. And then after that, I'm done with the entertainment deck. So that'll be an entire deck that I can cross off that I've completed. At that point, I just have to move on to the crew deck, and then medical bay. The crew deck isn't going to be that bad, because I've already built out the template for what the main crew quarters are going to look like. I have to build out a secondary for junior officers' quarters that Worf and Data would have in lower class officers. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to do too. But the template is primarily there, and it won't take me that long to add in all the crew quarters. There's not going to be a ton of them, but I want to have enough to make it feel that you're on a Galaxy class. And then I have to design out all the medical bays. That'll be probably one of the longest, hardest parts of this build, because the medical bays are going to take up a pretty decent chunk of the outer saucer section. You'll see what I mean when we get into the interior of it. And it wasn't even necessarily something that I planned out. It just kind of how it fell into place, the way that I lined the decks up. But we'll get into that when we get there. I'm trying to think what else I have left to do. And then I think I have like two decks left on the neck that I have to complete, but the neck's almost done. And then other than that, the only other thing that I have left to do is to finish out the lower hull engineering. The deflector dish is already done. Primary engineering is already done. Really, it's just a matter of fleshing out the back end of the lower hull. And then at that point, the ship is done. It sounds like a lot, and it kind of is, but at the same time, it's kind of not, because I've gotten through so much of the interior of the ship already. You know, the bridge, that's done. All the shuttle bays are done. Cargo room's done. Oh, and I also almost forgot the mall. The mall is actually almost done, though. I've got the shape of it completed. I've just got to add in all the shops. But it's not going to be that difficult to do that. At this point, I'm just kind of trying to figure out how exactly I'm going to tackle that. Haven't necessarily made any finalized decisions on it, which is kind of why I've been taking a slight break on it. And I suggest you do that too. If you're not sure what you want to do, you know, if I put something up in my tutorial and you're not set on that, you're like, well, I like that, but, you know, I want to do something different, but I'm just not sure what. Do your research. The best thing to do is watch Next Generation. If they don't have a direct reference material of what you're looking for, just look up different things online. Like in my case, where I'm having trouble with the mall, I've looked at different pictures of various malls across the world. I've looked at builds on what people have done in Minecraft with malls that kind of give me an idea of what I could do. But still, even that, I haven't really found anything that I'm set on doing yet. So I'm just kind of waiting until I get inspired on what exactly I want to do with it as far as what I have left to do. But it's pretty much done though. The shape and everything is done. It's just the shops themselves. That's really all I have left to do at that point. We're looking pretty good here. Now, one of the things I do want to talk about, because I'm sure somebody's going to say to me, how are you coming up with the spacing for these extra rows? And I can tell you right now, these are not spaced directly off of one another, because this row to this row and this row to this row are not the same space. What I'm basically doing, I'm just eyeing it. Looking at a picture of the Enterprise D, I'm looking at a picture of the hull, and I'm just making a decision. And I'm building it off of a cut line. That's also the most important thing to do. And that's the best way I can describe it. But what I am doing is that what I do on this back side, I do on this front side, and then vice versa on the right side of the ship. Because remember, we do one thing on one side, we do it on the other one immediately while it's fresh in our minds. This way we're a lot less likely to make those mistakes. But yeah, I mean, I thought about having them lined up perfectly together, but the more I was messing, because I actually messed with this a little bit off camera before I just ultimately decided, I'm just going to look for the best spot to place them. And that's pretty much what I did. And they're not exactly, this is probably the only part of the build where these, the hull lines are not perfectly mathematically lined up within one another. And that just came down to what looked better. I just try to look at the best spot to put those lines at based on how the models looked, and I just kind of ran with that. Because for when I noticed looking at the model that these lines, because they're going at an angle, it felt like they were closer together in some spots. So that's really why, I just kind of decided to do what I did there. Now I am going slow enough to where if you really, really needed to, you could totally count out the spacing between those so you can have your exact measurements there. That's something I try to do too. This is why I zip over my ships and I go over things a couple of times. This way you can see the area and the terrain that I'm going over, in this case the ship. And I try to do it in a pace to where not only that you can keep up, that you can pause it to replicate that if you want to. So far we're looking pretty good. How are we doing on time? We're down to the last minute actually. Shot through 20 minutes. Didn't feel like a 20-minute episode today, I'm not going to lie. Really did not feel like 20 minutes. It's still crazy though to see the ship in this state, because where the Enterprise D is currently at, I've got a ton of detail going on the outside of the ship, and I'm actually really, really happy with it, because I didn't think I was going to get to that point. I struggled there for a minute getting my detailing on the outside. But then after I started looking at some of the different models like the Eagle, Moss, Enterprise, and the toys, that was really the icebreaker for the exterior portion of the build, because that's where all the detail came from. And I'm just truly over the moon happy with how this thing is turning out. I really didn't know if I was going to be able to pull this off. And I'd say that I'm probably in the 98% level of happiness as far as how the build looks. There's always going to be one or two things that I'm not going to be completely satisfied with. That's just how I am. I'm my own worst critic in that regard, but I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up today. And I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. If you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button and help me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you just get notified when new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at around 7 p.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget to join the Discord channel. I have a link in the description below. Working on building that up, and if you can help me out, share my videos as we reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We've got the 2016 Enterprise A from Star Trek Beyond. That tutorial will be coming once we hit 1,000 subscribers. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you in the next episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.